Enter Talk Radio, you're in to all things music.
Once you get into film scoring and there's picture involved, well, that takes a whole lot of considerations off the table already. You sort of no longer have to think about form because your form is given to you in the form of a picture. And of course, you're not there to satisfy your musical curiosity. You're there to service the picture. You're there to write the music that enhances whatever's already on screen. So there's already a whole lot of choices that are made for you.
Welcome to Making It with Terry Woolman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Woolman.
Welcome to the show, and thanks for tuning in. I want to say a quick thank you to my guest on last week's episode, studio guitarist Michael Thompson. If you didn't get to hear it, you can listen to all of our episodes at entertalkradio.com/makingit or download our app and take us with you. Also, be sure to tune in for my upcoming episodes with guests including world-renowned percussionist Lenny Castro, composer-arranger Artie Butler, bassist Nathan East, entertainment attorney Michael Morris, and CEO of Westlake Pro George Adjev. That's just a few of my upcoming guests. I'd like to take a moment to also thank the companies that help me sound my best, whether I'm performing live or in the studio recording and producing music. Blue Microphones, Taylor Guitars, Seymour Duncan Pickups, Mesa Boogie Amps, D'Addario Strings and Planet Waves, Motu Digital Performer, IK Multimedia, and Exotic Effects. So often I get asked questions about the creative process, so I created this show to focus on what it takes to have a lasting career in the ever-changing landscape of the music business. You're really in for a treat as I've invited my friends, some of the best and brightest in music, to share their stories on how they have influenced the music that has shaped our lives. I guarantee you're going to love it. So let's get started. My guest today is award-winning composer and martial artist Adam Berry. Adam Berry is a Grammy and Emmy award-winning composer, songwriter, and producer who has scored over 500 episodes of television and 15 feature films. Adam's career began in 1997 when he was asked to write a demo for a new Comedy Central series, South Park. His demo secured him the job, and his guitar and mandolin music became the signature sound of the show. Adam scored the first 4 seasons of South Park and played bass guitar in Matt Stone's and Trey Parker's punk band DVDA. In 1998, Adam began working for Disney, composing scores for 5 series and 3 movies, including one of Disney's most popular and longest-running shows, Kim Possible. In 2005, he received his first Emmy nomination for his underscore music on Kim Possible. Adam returned to Comedy Central in 2007 to write music for The Sarah Silverman Show. When DreamWorks Nickelodeon's Penguins of Madagascar went into production, Adam was hired as composer. Between 2010 and 2014, he was nominated for 8 Emmy Awards and 2 Annie Awards for his work on the show, winning an Emmy in 2011 for Outstanding Achievement in Musical Direction and Composition, and again in 2012 for Outstanding Original Song. In 2016, Adam co-wrote, produced, and arranged the album White Sun 2, which won a Grammy for Best New Age Album, hit #1 on the Billboard New Age Music Chart, and #2 on the Billboard World Music Chart. Adam is currently working on the new Amazon series Lost in Oz and the upcoming Disney series Big Hero 6. Please welcome my guest, Adam Berry. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you, Terry. It's an honor to be here.
That's your credits are great, you know, and also so was that first piece of music that you heard, and we're going to be featuring excerpts from your music today. also, but that was a great way to kick off the show. It really just showed your range as a composer and arranger and producer, but also the energy and passion that you have in music.
Yeah, well, that was the main title from Penguins of Madagascar, and I think people are different. Some composers have very much their own sound that you can tell them a mile away. Others are more of a chameleon. I think because of the nature of my musical interests and also the nature of my job, we're often writing completely different kinds of music from week to week, that I'm more the chameleon variety.
And do you find that you spend a lot of time working with live musicians, or do you spend a lot of time sequestered alone in your studio, picking up all the various instruments?
It's both. I mean, I was very fortunate that when I first started working at Disney, which was all the way back in 1998, that they were still live orchestras were still a big part of the scoring scene, the TV scoring scene in town. So for my first 2 Disney series, every 2 weeks we would be in the studio with anywhere from 12 to, at the most, like 45, if it was a really big show, 45 musicians. And for that, I was sketching in just like piano, because I knew that I wasn't even having to mock stuff up in, make synthetic orchestra demos. I was just sketching in piano, and I'd send the parts off to a copyist, and after they were orchestrated, and then they would print them out, and we had music contractors and orchestras, and some of the coolest, like recording at Capitol and recording at O. Henry, all the really great studios in town. And then probably like in 2002, there was a pretty substantial shift that it went from, composers receiving like a creative fee. So prior to that, I was receiving just a creative fee, and Disney was covering the cost of all the musicians and everything else. Mm-hmm. And then around 2002, all the deals I was doing started becoming package deals, meaning that I am given a sum of money, and whatever I choose to do with that, if I'm hiring musicians, I'm paying for them out of that sum of money that I get. So the industry changed a fair amount around early 2000. So now I do both. I'm still definitely working with orchestras occasionally, and day to day I'm working with a player here and there to bring in like a trumpet player to play a part or something. Mm-hmm. But probably the most of it is, me in my room with my computer and my guitar and my bass.
And I know that you conduct, but do you prefer to conduct your pieces, or do you prefer to be producing your pieces and having somebody else conduct when you're dealing with a large orchestra?
I absolutely prefer someone else to conduct.
Oh, you do?
I do. Yeah. I mean, I love conducting from the standpoint of sort of the ego gratification. It's really fun and really cool to be out in front of the orchestra, and I think I'm actually better at it now, because I was very concerned about all the technical aspects of conducting when I first started doing it. And that was my very first job out of USC, was orchestrating and conducting for another composer. Mm-hmm. So I was very concerned with the technical, but I wasn't as knowledgeable about just sort of the what I'll, for lack of a better word, call sort of the energetic, relationship with that large group of people. And so much of being a good conductor is just being a good communicator. It doesn't matter if you're beating a perfect 4/4 pattern. I mean, that's kind of the least of it, especially when there's a click in their headphones. Like then the pattern becomes almost unnecessary. It's basically unnecessary information. So it's about the interpretation. Having said all that, the thing is that I do it so infrequently, and there's guys in town who do it so often that you want to get the person who is the most skilled to do it. And just because I've written the music, it doesn't mean that I'm the best one. Like I could write a piano concerto. I would not play the piano concerto because there's hundreds of people in town who are going to play it way better than I will.
Absolutely.
And I feel exactly the same way about conducting.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about awards for a minute. I just want to get this question out of the way, and because I'm really curious about it. You've been nominated for 8 Emmy Awards, 2 Annie Awards, and you've won 2 Emmys and a Grammy. Would you say that being an Emmy and Grammy winner has helped your career? Or hurt it? Or has it?
No, definitely. Well, I don't think there's any possible way for it to hurt it. I can't see how that could ever be a possibility.
Right.
I would say that so I'll just to be very kind of personal about my experience of awards and sort of what they mean to me, and which is a very different story than I think some other people, because some people, I remember Bill Conti saying, when he won his Oscar, and I think he was quite young, and I believe it was for Rocky, that he won the Oscar, and that was sort of like the pinnacle of the achievements that he could attain in his mind. And then when he won that Oscar, he kind of felt kind of let down, sort of like, well, what's next now? I had exactly the opposite experience. I remember my first nomination. It was I got a phone call in the morning from the VP at Disney, Music for TV Animation. Jay Stetler gave me a call, and I remember like waking up that morning and just being like, just the nights are long, and you compose for hours and hours, and the deadlines are fierce sometimes. And I remember just almost like limping out to the studio to do my day of work, And
I feeling.
And I checked and we're so lucky to be doing this. I never lose track of that. But sometimes the amount of work I do it's like, whoa, this is a lot of work. But I got the phone call, I got the message, and it was for the Emmy nomination for Kim Possible. And I can't tell you how much wind that put back in my sails. Like that put me on like it put extra energy into my system for 6 months, until I like whenever I went to the award ceremony and didn't win the award, because that's a whole other thing, So then I went for 5 years, I think, at least before my next Emmy nomination, which is fine because I'm not doing this for the Emmys. I'm doing it because I love writing music. But then I got my Emmy nomination, and once again, wind in my sails. And then when I got my first Emmy and actually won it, it was a great experience.
Yeah, I would imagine it's a thrill.
Yeah, I'm not gonna downplay it. It was very exciting, and then bringing the Emmy home and putting it in my studio, and then looking at it. I mean, honestly, for the first 3 months, I would come out and I would look at it, and it would make me happy, and it would really fuel my day of work. And so the thing for me, it's not the awards themselves that mean so much to me. It's sort of the representation of how much work went into just getting one of those awards,
Right. Yes.
The awards are whatever. It's a bunch of people who, thankfully get together and decide that, your work is the best that time around. And I think art, it's very difficult to turn art into a competition. And so, I think that's a subjective thing. And there's certainly people who have, Thomas Newman, for example, he's been nominated for an Oscar numerous times. The guy single-handedly kind of redefined a new way of scoring films, but he hasn't won an Oscar yet. So clearly, success and awards are not, they don't have to go together.
Right.
There's plenty of people who have never won an award. They're immensely talented and successful, and there's plenty of people who have won awards and their work is good, but maybe not the best of everybody. So
right, I agree.
Yeah. So my personal feeling about it is I like awards. I really do. And but I also understand that it's a game of sorts, And I think I may be getting this wrong, but I think I remember hearing a story about Mike Nichols, the director, and he was talking to some actor. They were at the Oscars or something, and he leaned over and he said, awards are really all, kind of smoke and mirrors, but given the choice of winning or losing, it's more fun to win.
Right, sure, of course.
so that's kind of the attitude I have about it.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned you love music, and I know that you love every aspect of it: composition, performance, music theory, Debussy, Stravinsky, bluegrass, Doc Watson, Clarence White, modal versus tonal, orchestration. These are all words that you've spoken to me before. I think that explains the passion and the heart that comes through in your work. Can you talk about the importance of bringing passion to every aspect of music and the work that you do?
Sure. Yeah, I think so. Once again, kind of making the conducting analogy that when I first started training in composition, I wanted to get every technical piece of knowledge I could possibly find from every corner of the earth. And I mean, I really I've got any book that seems relevant to composition, especially books written by composers. I've purchased those. They're in my library. I've read most of them, not all of them. Some are still waiting for me to get to. So there's that technical facility that was so important to me in the beginning. But at this point in time, I look at music as more of a vehicle for transferring energy. And I mean, we can talk about that in just sort of physically, that when you pluck the string on a guitar, it vibrates, and the energy from your body went into plucking that string. The string vibrates, which then vibrates the air. That air goes and vibrates the person's eardrum. That eardrum turns back into electrical signals. The vibration, it goes into your brain. So it is literally a transfer of energy. Mm-hmm. But to be more metaphysical, there's something, as we all know, about music that we can't quantify why it makes us feel the way it makes us feel. And, sometimes it'll make us feel, I mean, I've listened to music that has made me more in touch with sort of the grandness of the universe than any other experience I've had. Just hearing, maybe it was Debussy, maybe it was, probably it's Debussy, to be honest.
Right.
Probably like Afternoon of the Faun or something. And
sure.
This music can bring tears to your eyes. It can make you smile. It can make you feel that life is worth living. It can make you marvel. Or the music of Bach. It can make you marvel at the power of the human being to create beauty in the world.
Adam, we're heading into our first break actually right now.
Yes,
so,
please. Okay.
So when we come back, I want to talk more about the energetic aspect of music and also how that ties in with martial arts, since you and I are both martial artists. So everybody stick around. I'm here with composer Adam Berry. We will be right back.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be the music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
This is filmmaker Danny Gold of If You're Not in the Obit, Eat Breakfast, and you're listening to Making It with Terry Wollman.
Welcome to Making It with Terry Wollman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Wollman.
Welcome back. I'm here with composer Adam Berry, and you're listening to music that Adam has composed and or produced. That's White Sun, I believe, right?
That is. That's White Sun 2, a song called Hummy Hum, and that's the beautiful voice of Guru Jas, who also is the songwriter for the band. Yeah. No,
and that's the album that won a Grammy last year for Best New Age Album.
It is.
Congratulations again on that. I was just so proud of you.
Thank you so much. I thank you. You know, I was very grateful to win that award, and we all were, and it was a surprise, I think, considering that we were nominated next to some really amazing albums and musicians, and
absolutely,
yeah, we're grateful.
We'll talk a little bit more about that album in a moment, but because we're talking about the energetic aspect of music, it totally ties into martial arts. And since you and I both practice martial arts, I want to talk about what part of being a martial artist that plays in your life. I know that you love martial arts as much as you love music. Soft styles versus hard styles, cooperative styles like Aikido versus the wrestling styles like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Western wrestling and weapon defenses and also, of course, the philosophy of martial arts. So tell me about how martial arts plays out in your life.
Well, so I think initially, like so many things, the initial goal is different than sort of where you come after training in something for a long time. Initially, it was really just self-defense. I was interested in self-defense. I don't know why, because I've never been in a physical altercation other than, you know, a schoolyard like wrestling thing, you know, and when you're in elementary school or something. So it's not like I'm someone who had an incident where all of a sudden I needed to learn self-defense in order to feel comfortable. I just always was drawn to it, and long before I did my first martial arts class, when I was a kid, I would watch this thing called Kung Fu Theater on the weekends. I don't know if you ever saw that.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah, and it would be like Shaw Brothers or, you know, Golden Harvest and these great, you know, martial arts movies from the 70s. So I was always super into that stuff, but for some reason I never studied martial arts until I was like 21, and then it was Tai Chi. There was a community class and up at a, you know, really close by, like a 5-minute drive away, and I did Tai Chi for about 3 years. That was my first martial art, and as you know, it's a very soft style, so it wasn't really self-defense oriented necessarily, but and then I started, like when I was 29, I guess, I started doing Taekwondo with Jun Chong, who's a great grandmaster in Los Angeles. I studied Taekwondo and Hapkido with him for a few years, and actually more like 5 or 6. And I was getting ready for the point, I got to the red belt level, which in his system is the belt before black belt. And we would spar in class, which is my favorite. Like my favorite thing about martial arts is actually sparring. So I double tested in those early tests so I could get to blue belt and put on the gloves and the headgear and punch and kick people,
It is fun. Yeah.
It's super fun. And not just punch and kick people, but also be punched and kicked. You got to enjoy that in a weird way as much as you like the other. So, but even after, doing this, I was going 5 times a week. I was very serious, and I kept having this nagging thought in my mind, yeah, but what happens if the person grabs onto you and pulls you to the ground? That was, it was like almost keeping me up at night. It was such a strong thought. And our teacher happened to bring in a the Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy named Gerson Sanjanito for a workshop. And I swear, after that one workshop, I stopped doing Taekwondo entirely, and I switched all my energies over to Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And I've been studying that now for maybe 15 years or so. Because it answered every single question I had. It answered the grappling questions of standing. It answered how do you prevent yourself from going to the ground? How do you put the other person on the ground? If you do end up going to the ground, what are the answers to, like, how do you fight on the ground? And I'll say one more thing about this whole situation. A lot of people have said when a fight is real, people grab each other and it goes to the ground. Now, this is true in my experience, too, because I remember a sparring match in Taekwondo that got out of control. These are 2 black belts. They're both elite-level strikers, like very good black belts. But their egos got in the way, and it turned into a fight. Like, they started just trying to knock each other's head off, kicking as hard as they could, punching as hard as they could. What did they do? They both grabbed each other and fell to the ground. These are 2 guys who have no experience in any kind of grappling. They were strikers. But once the fight became real, they grabbed each other and fell to the ground, and then they just squeezed each other for like a minute until the instructor could pull them apart. So to me, that shows whoever has the best ground game, which is, ground fighting is not instincts at all. In fact, a lot of instincts that you have will put you in a bad situation. So you have to learn a lot of things. It's just like swimming. You throw a person who doesn't know how to swim into a rough ocean, it's not going to go well. It's the same thing with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You put a person who is proficient in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu against a guy who's not, and that Jiu-Jitsu practitioner takes the other person to the ground. That other person is in rough waters and he doesn't know how to swim. That's why I think Jiu-Jitsu is such an effective martial art.
Right. I agree with you. I know that I started studying martial arts later in my life when I was 40, and it was for recovery from a really bad bicycle accident that I was in and spinal fusion. So it's part of my recovery, and I grew to just love it. And it became so much larger. Like you said, what you start with martial arts changes. The reason you start is not the reason you continue doing it. And but it's really profoundly affected my life in other ways, and it certainly seeps into my personal relationships and also my music. How does that affect you in your work and your creative life?
Well, I'll say, the flow is so great, because if what I find happens, and these are not necessarily artistic, these are more kind of practical observations. When I'm working and I compose, you compose for 6 hours, 10 hours, or whatever, it's like the neurons in your brain almost become exhausted. And it gets to the point where it starts feeling like pushing a rock up a hill. So then I go out and do some martial arts, which feels, amazing and kind of almost cathartic in a way. Like you're just kind of, it's like just re-energizing the system. And I come off the mats and back into my studio, and my neurons are all just alive and awake and firing again. So martial arts makes me very creative musically, which, who would have thought? It doesn't make It doesn't make a ton of sense, And so, and the other thing too is that and I'm going to keep referring to jiu-jitsu, even though I love all martial arts. Jiu-jitsu, when you're grappling, doing a free sparring situation, and you've got someone on top of you who is crushing you and trying to choke you, that is a very uncomfortable situation. And the more that you do that, and the more that you become comfortable with that, the more your willpower develops, and the more that you become comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And what I've found is that in order to meet deadlines and continue doing my best work, a lot of that is willpower. That it's the desire to go, no, this cue isn't done. I can't go to sleep yet. I have to work on it for another hour, even though I'm falling asleep at the keyboard. And that's a sheer willpower move to and also to get the most out of yourself even when you're exhausted is a sheer willpower move. It's a choice, And I think martial arts have given me a great deal of ability to control my energy, and what that turns out is it gives me a great ability to control my creative energy, which, like I say, is kind of a surprise.
Right, it's an unexpected gift.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Your wife Santosh is a certified Kundalini yoga instructor. Do you also practice yoga with her? Is that part of your practice?
I do. I love Kundalini yoga, and I can do a very small amount, like maybe 15 minutes, and feel substantial benefits from it, and changes, almost changes in my physiology. So I tend to do a very kind of small 15 to 20 minute set a couple times a week. It's not the martial arts are very much that's my place, I think the yoga is beautiful, and I've gone to lots of workshops and these all day long yoga events and stuff. But the martial arts are that's the love.
Yeah. Let's go back to your childhood and back to music now. You've been playing guitar since you were 6 years old. Who put the first guitar in your hands?
My mom.
No kidding.
Mom. Thank you, Mom.
That's great.
Yeah, no, she took me. I remember. I mean, I have memories that go back pretty far for whatever reason, So I remember the day that we were at. It was at my grandma's house. She said, come upstairs. Opened up a closet. We rummaged through the closet, and we pulled out this old guitar that she had played at camp when she was a kid. And she said, "Okay, this is yours, and you're going to start taking lessons." And I started taking lessons, and just gravitated towards it. It made sense to me. Minor and major chords sounded sad and happy. I mean, like I understood music. After I started playing guitar, I started listening to pop songs on the radio, and then anticipating. I had no idea what the next chord was in terms of, whether it was a G or a D, but I started anticipating what the next sound would be, and I started music started becoming a language that I understood even without really studying it in depth. Just from playing those chords, doing Up on the Housetop or Good King Wenceslas, these kind of easy to play guitar songs. So yeah, thank you, Mom.
Yeah. So were you also at a young age, learning mandolin and bass and piano, or was that something you took up when you went to USC or as you got older?
Yeah, just guitar for the first, from 6 to 14, I guess. At 14, I had a great, fortunate experience where one of the music teachers at the school I went to went away to Oxford for a year to study music there, and she took her beautiful baby grand black Yamaha piano, and she stored it at our house, which meant and basically she gets storage for free, and I got to play piano. So so we took really great care of that piano and had it tuned when it needed to be tuned, and that's when I first started playing piano and learning the keyboards.
Which is also the same age you were when you had your first band. You were 14.
It's absolutely. In fact, one of the first songs I ever wrote, which I wrote on piano, our band performed as this instrumental. We turned it I wrote it as this kind of ballady thing, and we turned it into this kind of calypso, this calypso thing. Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. That was kind of the beginning of composing, I suppose. Once I started playing the piano.
So then when you were 20, you went to USC and you were studying composition with an emphasis in TV and film scoring. But during your senior year, you juggled a full undergraduate composition course load in addition to what's since become the USC's master degree program in film scoring. So it sounds like an intense time. Can you describe that period of your life?
Well, I'll tell you, it was the most intense work period that I had up to that point. And of course, it wasn't just me doing that. It was 20 other people
right.
who were, or actually, not 20 because at least half were not in both programs. There were a bunch of people who were doing just the film scoring portion. So there were maybe 8 of us or something. And honestly, for me, my choice was to let my concert composition coursework kind of slide a bit in order to learn more about the film scoring. I did, that senior year, I produced one very substantial, 10-minute orchestral work for my regular composition class, and that was performed actually by the Thornton Symphony, which was an amazing experience. But I focused more on the film scoring stuff, and I just kind of juggled and decided, on a given day, because almost every day something had to be shortchanged.
Right.
And I just decided what it was. Sometimes a film scoring assignment got shortchanged. Sometimes, a regular composition assignment got shortchanged. When
you were in the program, I'm curious, did they approach composing music for television differently than composing music for film?
Well, there were 2 completely separate programs, so absolutely, absolutely, because with the teaching just what I'll call legit composition or concert composition, that's so in the nuts and bolts of how to assemble sounds in time, and once you get into film scoring and there's picture involved, well that takes a whole lot of considerations off the table already. You sort of no longer have to think about form because your form is given to you in the form of a picture. So there's all kinds of considerations that once you start dealing with picture that kind of go off the table. And of course, you're not there to satisfy your musical curiosity. You're there to service the picture. You're there to write the music that enhances whatever's already on screen. So there's already a whole lot of choices that are made for you.
That makes sense. We're heading into our second break, Adam. So
okay, great.
I want to let everybody know that we're going to be right back. I want to talk about your home studio setup and, of course, White Sun 2 album, and then just talk about life. So I'm here with composer Adam Berry, and we want you to stick around. We will be right back.
Everybody, this is Phil Perry. Stay tuned for another portion of Making It with Terry Wilson.
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear, host of Sound Experience here on Intertalk Radio. And Source Connect by Source Element is the essential tool that we use to link between my studio in Austin, Texas and the WS radio station in San Diego. Now with Source Connect, not only can we communicate in real time and with HD audio, but it's synced up and is of a high enough quality that I can use it for real-time ADR work, remote recording and overdubbing, and it even allows me to remotely control a DAW. Source Connect by Source Element. Affordable, high-quality audio and video connection over the internet for all of your production needs.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John G.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion, which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on EnterTalkRadio.com.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Hi, Miriam Cutler, film composer here, and you're listening to Making It with Terry Wollman.
Welcome to Making It with Terry Wollman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Wollman.
Welcome back. You're listening to the music of Adam Berry, and I am smiling listening to that. That's just wonderful.
Oh, thank you so much. That's from a independent kind of horror comedy called Blood Punch. And what was so cool is I got to score the whole film essentially with a string quartet.
Fantastic. Yeah, there's nothing like strings.
Yeah, no live strings.
Yeah. So excuse me, in our last part of the show, we have 15 minutes, and I'm going to ask you some more questions. But to cover more territory, I'm going to ask you for more concise answers because I want to cover a lot of things. During the break, we were talking about your first guitar, the one that your mom put in your hands, and I had asked you if you still have it, and you answered.
I do not, and I was actually talking about it the other day. I'm not sure where it is. It was this little nylon stringed camp guitar.
So that's the one that got away.
That's the one that got away. Yeah, I think we gave it to a friend or something like that.
Yeah, Do you have a favorite guitar and amp that you just have a special relationship with, or pedal, or any mandolin?
I've got one guitar. It's a Martin D18 from 1936. So I mean that's got to win the day, right? I mean just by it's a pre-war D18. So that's my favorite. And then I mean I love all my other guitars. I don't really have a favorite after that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all wonderful, and I don't, in terms of amplifiers, that's probably I'm least knowledgeable. I have a Roland Juno, what is it, the 120 or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
The two-speaker thing. I got that because Robert Fripp, my favorite guitarist from King Crimson, I got that because that's what he used. So.
Mm-hmm. So in your home studio setup, what's your basic setup? What software do you use? And
I use Digital Performer, which I think you must also, because I heard the ad in the beginning. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I love Digital Performer. I use Pro Tools, of course, to build sessions for the mixes of the shows I do. So that's the main thing. I have some very nice interfaces, Antelope Audio, and then I've got a bunch of hardware. I keep most of it in the box, but then I usually before the final mix, I usually run stuff out of the box and through a bunch of analog gear and then back into the computer.
Right.
So, yeah.
So you have the best of both worlds.
That's how I look at it, yeah.
Me too, absolutely. When we were in music school, most recording took place in professional studios, but now composers like you and I are expected to own and operate our own studios. Where did you learn to engineer?
I went at the community college where I met my wife, Santosh. I took a recording arts class for a couple years, and like a lot of things at that point in time, I was just on a tear to like get things done as quickly as possible. So I asked the teacher, usually it took like a year and a half or 2 years to become a first engineer. I said, "Hey, John, like, can I do this in like 6 months?" And he's like, "Yeah, if you do this and this and this and this and this." I said, "Okay." And so I did all that, and then had access to, a 16-track, tape studio with a cool spring reverb up in the attic, and was then, showing other people how to use it and doing a lot of recording at that point in time. So that was, learning the flow chart of the boards and stuff like that. So that's, I did like sort of do legitimate courses in terms of doing it. And then the rest of it was just, experimentation over the years on my own.
And because of deadlines, I would imagine that you do a lot of your own mixing, but do you ever have the luxury of bringing in a mixing engineer to collaborate with?
I have on Kim Possible in particular. I had my great friend, Carrie Butler. And in fact, you're going to interview Artie Butler, and Artie Butler is his dad.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Yeah, Artie Butler is amazing. So Carrie Butler, his son, is a great engineer, and I had him mixing my stuff for Kim Possible for the first couple of years, and then the deadlines just got so tight that it was. I mean, because literally, I would stay up all night with him the night before the mix in order to mix it, and it just got to be too much of a grind to have that at the end of each process. So yeah, so I definitely when it's a big thing like with orchestra, absolutely, I bring in a mixer and I bring in an engineer. If it's smaller stuff like a violin here and there or something, then I'm setting up the mics myself and doing all that. Yeah. Right.
You know how to make it sound great.
Go ahead.
I was
going to say I do my best.
That's all one can ask. Speaking of deadlines, as a busy working composer, how do you manage your time? You're hitting work deadlines, you're maintaining a wonderful marriage, and you're staying physically, emotionally, and spiritually healthy. How do you manage all of that?
Yes, well, so some of it is absolutely a choice because I have also had periods of time when I was working where my attitude was just like, hey, whatever it takes to get the job done. So I would drink, a pot of coffee or 2 pots of coffee a day. I, have an assistant who smokes cigarettes, so I'm going to bum cigarettes if I start feeling sleepy, doing whatever, not exercising. And it got to a certain point where I just realized, this is not sustainable over long term, and I want to do this long term, Right. So then I made exercise like a compulsory part of my routine. There's always time to go out and go for a 10-minute jog around the block. I mean, there's always time for that. So
I love that you said a 10-minute jog. So it's reality based, but it's focused exercise. You're really give it 100% of 10 minutes instead of 50% of 45 minutes.
Absolutely. And the other trick, which I'm very fortunate to be able to do, is I have my current jiu-jitsu instructor comes to my house twice a week, and we train in the backyard. So that means that
nice.
I literally step up from my studio, go put my gi on, walk into the backyard, get beaten up for an hour and a half, and I mean that's like twice a week. I exhaust myself in terms of my physical activity. So I'm fine doing like kind of light physical activity on other days, but twice a week I'm like just dripping sweat, and I've exhausted all my energy. That seems to really be a great way to maintain my health. It's just that twice a week workout. Also, you cannot have stress in your body once you've worked out that hard. So that's been the key, and I just make sure that I train really hard at least twice a week, and that seems to be kind of a magic number.
That's great. Let's talk about White Sun 2. And before we talk about the music, I have a promotion question because you did a lot of wonderful promotion on your second album, White Sun 2, which you produced, and you were a band member, and you won a Grammy for Best New Age Album. First of all, congratulations on producing such a beautiful album. I'm wondering, how was this? Did you release this independently? Was there a label behind you, or is this?
We are released on a label called BY, which is like BEY. You know, the word.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, and so this is someone who one of our band members, Harry Jeevan, knew quite well, and she really loved the music, and we released our first album completely independently. On this one, she said, "Hey, I'd like to help you guys with distribution," and we were very, very grateful for her help. So,
and did they also help on promotion? Because your promotion campaign was exquisite.
Yeah, well, I think definitely there was some help with that, and I think all of us were just I mean, because we worked solidly for a year on that album, and we knew how much went into it, and we wanted to make sure that we maximized every bit of opportunity to tell people about it. So it really, so much of our sort of getting the word out was literally that. It was like emailing people, "Hey, this is happening," and calling our friends. I mean, I called every person I've worked with in the last 30 years and said, "Hey, I'd like to send you our album and for you to check it out, and this is what I'm doing now." So I think it was
personal relationships, yeah.
So much of that, and ads and billboard too, which are just to we didn't want to leave any stone unturned that we could, let's say, to extend the metaphor, that we could physically move. We didn't want to leave any stone unturned, and we wanted to just give White Sun 2 every benefit of like everything we could do to get people to listen to it, because we believed in it that much.
So we're going to share a link on the website page at Enter Talk Radio. But if you could just give like a couple sentence description of your collaboration with Guru Jas and Hari Jiwan, who's the other partner in White Sun. Tell me, what is White Sun?
Well, White Sun was Hari Jeevan's idea, and it's a way of putting this beautiful kind of sound current into people's ears, and so there's a lot of mantra artists who are out there already, and my biggest contribution, I think, was seeing how we could turn these songs into things that were very appealing to people who don't practice yoga. Now Guru Jas comes in with the most beautiful melodic and harmonic sketches. The songs are definitely, they're composed by her. And then we record a sketch, and then I start to going to town with orchestrating it, maybe saying, okay, this one actually we need maybe like a chorus here, or we need contrasting material. Let's do an instrumental interlude here. And then we're all in the room at the same time, just making these decisions as we go. And just trying to make the best possible songs we can make.
And you do. Well done. We have 4 minutes left, so I'm going to ask you a few more questions with quick answers, even though we could elaborate on all of these. Do you have a manager or an agent that represents you? How do you get your work?
Yes,
I do.
Have both. I absolutely do. I look for work on my own, but I have. I don't even know if she's technically a manager or an agent. I guess she's my agent, I guess. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So she handles contracts, and they look for leads, and then I also bring leads to them, and they follow up on them.
Right.
Yeah.
How important do you think it is for artists to use their visibility to advance social causes?
I think that it's up to the individual artist. I think it's whether or not that's a natural part of who they are before they become visible.
Right.
In my opinion. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's an entirely. It's a very much an individual choice. Yeah.
Here's another one. I wanted to talk about. We wanted to talk about being interested in how one gets the most out of life. Mm-hmm. Can you elaborate on that?
Getting the most out of life. Okay, well, so here's as quickly as possible. I think that to a large extent, if you can find, you've got your profession, you've got your hobbies, you got to do some exercise to stay healthy, you've got your relationships. So I look at my life as being this kind of triangle of my relationship with my wife, music, and martial arts. When all those things are functioning properly, I am an incredibly happy person. And martial arts serves this function of being both a hobby and a physical exercise, which also is a mental exercise. Music is what I love to do, and I've been doing since I was a kid, and probably the thing that I get the most satisfaction from. And then my relationship with my wife is the most important relationship in my life, and I devote a lot of energy to that to make sure that we continue moving through life, helping and supporting each other and loving each other. And when I have those three things are in the right kind of balance, I am just an incredibly happy person.
When I've got a closing question, and I also have one other question, and I'm going to ask you off the air because it's important for me to know. But we're going to record it and we'll post it somehow. So we're going to have a bonus round after this is over. But my closing question is: at this point of your life, with everything that you know to be true, what would you tell your younger self?
I wouldn't. I don't know that I would tell them anything, because it's one of those things where because it's all the choices, good and bad, all the experiences, good and bad. They got me here, and there are things that happened in my life that seemed tragic at the time that turned out to be just a huge win a few years later. So, I just think you got to go through what you got to go through. I don't think there's anything there's nothing I could tell myself to protect myself. My younger self, that wouldn't have had some implication into where I am now. And I love where I am now. So I would tell my younger self nothing.
That's a beautiful answer, and I totally understand. Not what I expected to hear, but I absolutely get that. We will, everybody, go to the website, entertalkradio.com, so you can hear this bonus question that I'm going to talk to Adam about. But your website is?
Oh, it's adamberrycomposer.com, and then also whitesun.com.
And we will post both of those on the Entertalk Radio website, so everybody can find out everything interesting to know about Adam and your new shows that are coming up, and Lost in Oz and Big Hero 6. And I want everybody to keep finding your music. So thank you for spending the hour with me. I really appreciate it. It's been a great conversation, Adam.
Thank you so much, Terry. Thank you.
We'll see everybody next week.
Tune in again next week for another great episode of Making It with Terry Wollman.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time, or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear from Eclectica Studios. I'm a full-time mixing and recording engineer. I work with Grammy winners, labels, and indie artists, using state-of-the-art digital mixing and restoration tools and the very best in analog gear. Really, though, it's my ability to bring tracks to life and fulfill your vision for your music. This has made me sought after by producers and artists worldwide. So spend your time working on music and not chasing a mix down a rabbit hole. Go to timdolbear.com and check out our free one-song mix offer.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.